an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering The Hunger Games, Book 3, Mockingjay. Chapters 22 through 24. In this section, we go through hell and lose some significant people. And it's just relentless. That's the word. Relentless. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Are you coming to the tree? They strung up a man, they say, who murdered 3. Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where a dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you?
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn. This was no good. None of this was good. It was all terrible from start to finish. And I couldn't even really react to everything and everyone we lost because everything happened like so fast. One. And like some of the people, I don't know them for that well. Like they're new people to us. And I think I texted you only about Finnick. And then you texted me back being like, so did you read the rest of it? And I hadn't texted about the way 24 ends because I chose to be in denial. I decided.
Which I understand and I respect.
I decided, let's not jump to conclusions. Sure, it looks bad. Right? It looks real bad. But we know my rule. My rule is, if you don't see it happen, if I don't see it as a reader and there's no body, I'm going to be holding out hope. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was doing until you texted me.
I'm so sorry.
No. I needed to face the facts, right? I was only hurting myself.
I robbed Rashawn of her hope. I feel like a real harbinger now, somehow.
But yeah, man, these chapters are just fucking brutal. And to end with one of the worst things that I can imagine happening after everything, the onslaught of these chapters, to end that way was just rude.
Yeah.
And I don't know who Suzanne Collins thinks she is. Other than a New York Times bestselling author, according to the cover. I don't know.
So they say.
But she's got a lot of fucking nerve. That's what I'm saying about that. She's got a lot of balls. A lot of balls.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this is, all right.
Yeah,
let's back up. So,
start at the beginning.
22, I live read to you about the approach of some mutts. And this chapter goes on without us actually getting to see them for quite some time.
Yeah, it's a while before we see them. And then when we do finally get a description of what these fucking things look like, it is, I don't even know. Like it's a
real horror show.
It's fucking like, what does Katniss say? It looks like they're people mixed with like some type of lizard, which in my mind I'm thinking like not dinosaur, but like a alligator or a crocodile or something with like big, powerful jaws like that.
Okay.
But then she also mentions and a host of other things. Like these are mutations that are not just part human, part crocodile. It's like something she can't even identify. And the smell.
The fact that he knows that this bothers her to use at all. That's something that gets to me a lot. I don't like my enemies having this kind of information about her.
All I could think when I was reading that is, my God, thank God they didn't send PETA back smelling like that.
Ooh.
Right? Because clearly they have the technology.
For Sean.
Right? Right?
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Oh, that would just, that, oh, God.
Can you
You're fucked
imagine? Up for that. Listen, it's Suzanne Collins putting these ideas in my head.
Man, that would be deeply fucked up. Man. Yeah, no. We don't need to play with that. But yeah, and fucking PETA is continuing to like hiss her name with them, which just hating that whole connection there. And they have to basically kind of like go as fast as possible while trying to make as little noise as possible. But it becomes like more and more evident that the noise isn't what they're following.
Yeah, they're
tracking. They are following her scent. Yeah. And it's that when they realize that they're tracking Katniss specifically, but that they will fuck up whoever is in their way, because she's at one point just like, well, we should separate, and everybody is just like, okay, no one, we're not doing that. I do like their reaction. Somebody just says, Katniss, nobody is agreeing to that idea. And it just really like just cutting to the chase of like, why are you wasting our time even talking about
exactly
this?
That's exactly what Finnick says. It's just like, this is fucking wasting time. We need to move, and we gotta move now. And there's a moment when they realize that these things will kill whoever's in their way. It's because they can hear the noise that the Avoxes are making as they're being attacked, because they can't, make screams like you normally would. And they hear this noise and they're like, what the fuck is that? And PETA knows. He's like, oh, it's Avoxes, because that's what Darius sounded like when they tortured him when I was there. And just like, he says it like immediately and almost like matter of fact, so matter of factly, that the magnitude of what he's saying feels like he's understating it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And this is all the first page and a half of the chapter, and it just goes downhill.
She just swings out the gate. And then it's just like for like
she really is
4 chapters in a row.
Her fucking George Martin one, right? She's just like really leaning into I am going to just strip everything bare. I'm going to bring our heroes to their lowest point and make you wonder if I'm going to let them recover. Like, and we're so close to the end now. And we've lost so many people. Oh, God. I don't even know. I don't know if I want to finish the book.
Right?
I don't know.
I get that. I do. So, they're fleeing, and they at one point, like, because there are still pods down there. And some of them are labeled, and they can tell one of them is called, like, meat grinder. And so they're able to sort of dodge around that one. But then there is one where it says 2 of Gale's arrows already lie useless beside the wide shaft of golden light that radiates from ceiling to floor. Inside, Masala is as still as a statue, poised up on the ball of 1 foot, head tilted back, held captive by the beam. I can't tell if he's yelling, although his mouth is stretched wide. We watch utterly helpless as the flesh melts off his body like candle wax. Yeah.
What the fuck is this? Why do we want to know,
this? Suzanne, who fucking hurt you? That you come up with these ideas at all? Like, what is that? What is you just, okay, we're just going to have a flesh melting beam.
It it's almost cartoonish. You know, it's like it's so beyond anything that you would think of that you're just like, that sounds like,
this feels
I don't know. It does. It feels like something out of Star Trek, you know, like phasers on, and you know,
yes.
It just, I don't know. It just, and PETA is they are all dumbstruck. Like they're watching, they cannot believe what they're seeing. And PETA has to be like, you can't help him, got to keep moving, and has to like shove Katniss forward because she is planted in the spot, staring like she can't do anything else but look at what they have just seen. And because they can't, I imagine it's one of those things where you just can't make your brain accept what your eyes just saw, like just doesn't compute. And you glitch a little bit. You're just, you know what I mean? That's what it feels like. Yeah.
Agree. And it's odd because like even Katniss is sort of like, he is managing to stay together in a way that I wasn't expecting, considering that he was fucking hissing before, you know?
Yep.
And they then feel gunfire and they realize like they're peacekeepers because at first they think it's a pod. A bunch of them go down because they're firing back. And then here we see the mutts. They're white, four-limbed, about the size of a fully grown human, but that's where the comparisons stop. Naked, with long reptilian tails, arched backs, and heads that jut forward. They swarm over the peacekeepers, living and dead, clamp onto their necks with their mouths, and rip off the helmeted heads. Apparently, having a capital pedigree is as useless here as it was in 13. It seems to take only seconds before the peacekeepers are decapitated. The mutts fall to their bellies and skitter toward us on all fours.
All right, I am not a fan of the word skitter or anything that does it.
Yeah, skitter
right?
is,
that is a word that just gives you the heebiest of jeebies. It just
my heebies are definitely jeebied.
But yeah, this description, that's what I was picturing, is sort of like an half man, half alligator kind of situation. Yeah,
agree. So this is the point where she begins to smell the smell, and they like, at first they're like, we got to put our masks on because she's starting to like throw up, and they think that it means there's a chemical in the air or something.
Oh yeah, that happens a little bit
reacting
earlier
to the scent. Okay, yeah,
but it's the smell of President Snow, but strong enough to travel. Oh, I mean, because they're down in the sewers, and the sewer smell is being overwhelmed by the snow smell, which is like. To think how like I would think that would make everybody a little sick, but
true.
But she's having a much more profound PSTD type of reaction to the smell. That is just like you said earlier. He just knows how to push a lot of her buttons. You know.
It really like makes me wonder if he wears that rose to create this link in people's brains.
Interesting.
Because like I initially took it as sort of an accidental association. And then reading it the second time, I was sort of like, maybe he has these roses with this like incredibly powerful fragrance to start this sort of chain of reaction in people and exploit that and remind them like who's in charge later, you know?
Wouldn't put it past them to have something, a scent that's that strong. I mean, animals use scent to mark their territory in lots of ways. And I was curious. I couldn't remember if Katniss had a conversation with PETA about the smell. And if that's some information that maybe PETA relayed when he was being tortured, or, you know, because
I don't remember.
I'm trying to, because I was curious how Snow would know she reacts so strongly to the smell. I know that she met him the one time in the house. And of course she was visibly shaken because he's not fucking supposed to be there and he's threatening her, but I was curious, like, how does he know that the smell would have such an impact on her? And she talks about it. Is it in this moment or is it a little bit later? She talks about having, I think it's a little bit later.
Impact.
Yeah. When she's talking about, the mutts and how they are meant to have both, like, scary because they can kill you and maim you, but also he wants to hurt you psychologically. And she's thinking about the smell and how it's making her feel. But I was like, how does he know that it's going to have that reaction? Specifically for Katniss. So I'm thinking that maybe that's something PETA maybe shared.
Don't know. Don't know. But yeah, so they eventually get to this point where they're having to climb up this ladder, and she realizes that they're leaving people behind. Pollux is ahead of her, PETA and Cressida below. There's a human cry from below. Someone's still alive, I plead. No, Katniss, they're not coming, says Gale. Only the mutts are. Unable to accept it, I shine the light from Cressida's gun down the shaft. Far below, I can just make out Finnick struggling to hang on as 3 mutts tear at him. As one yanks back his head to take the death bite, something bizarre happens. It's as if I'm Finnick, watching images of my life flash by. The mast of a boat, a silver parachute, Mags laughing, a pink sky, Beatty's trident, Annie in her wedding dress, waves breaking over rocks. Then it's over. I slide the hollow from my belt and choke out, "Nightlock, Nightlock, Nightlock." Release it, hunch against the wall with the others as the explosion rocks the platform, and bits of mutt and human flesh shoot out of the pipe and shower us. There's a clank as Pollux slams a cover over the pipe and locks it in place. Pollux, Gale, Cressida, PETA, and me. We're all that's left.
Yep. So we lost Boggs, we lost Masala, we lost Finnick and Jackson, I guess, in this moment here. We lost one of the League sisters, and then
Castor.
I guess later on, Castor and the other League sister. Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah. Heavy casualty section here.
PETA is
trying to get them to leave him behind because he really feels like he's on the edge of absolutely losing it.
Yeah. His eyes are like, she says, like black pools. His pupils are dilated, so the blue has all but vanished. And he is telling her, I'm about to lose my shit. Like, I'm about to turn. You got to get away from me. Leave me behind. Whatever you got to do. And she decides that in this moment, she's not letting Snow win anything else in this particular moment. She's not letting go of PETA yet. And she decides to kiss him. And kisses him for a while. And she says, don't let him take you from me. And he says, no, I don't want to. And she says, well, then stay with me. And it calms him down. And he hits her with the always, which we talked about last time. You know, that's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
But
it is, though.
I'm really surprised that she did that, considering when this book was written and how popular Harry Potter was. And I was curious about the timing of all that. Like, if it was just a coincidence, like who would have known?
I think it was, yeah.
Like, this book came out in 2010. I don't remember exactly when Always. I don't even remember what book that came out in, where everybody like loses their mind. But I just think it's really funny that there's like 2 very, very popular YA fantasy books that have that in there.
Yeah. I think it's just a coincidence, but I've never actually checked the dates of it because I'm pretty sure Always doesn't come until the final Harry Potter book.
Yeah, it's late in the series. I couldn't remember if it was the last one or the second to last one.
Yeah.
It's funny how much I don't remember about that, considering how much time we spent talking about all of it.
No, it's been a long time though. Like, it doesn't feel like it's been as long, but then you kind of think back to, and so much is what's the word I want? Just sort of in the mists of my memory. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so this moment bringing him back and like it manages to work, but I kept being like, what is Gale thinking over here? Is he fucking cranky about it? And we don't hear anything about his reaction, which I was relieved by.
Yeah, I was also relieved because this is not the moment for all of that.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they come up out of this ladder and they pop up in somebody's house, somebody's like utility room. And a woman is standing there. She's just like, what the fuck? And Katniss shoots her without even blinking. Just boom, done, dead.
Yep.
And I was conflicted, y'all. I was conflicted because we don't know anything about this woman. This woman is just a citizen. We don't know, where she fell politically. She might have hated the Capitol as much as anybody else, even though she's, wearing all the trappings, the way she's described, looks like she's a woman of the city. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything, right? And y'all just broke into her house and you just shot her dead. But then, but on the other hand, we got a lot going on. We just lost a lot of people. She was
opening her mouth to call out for help.
She was She was about to yell, help. Even though it turns out there's nobody else in the house with her, but a neighbor could have come running. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, and the thing you got to do is shoot an innocent person after you broke into their house.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's just. What I
really love the addition of this to the story because I feel like we could have kept Katniss sort of out of this gray area and it would have been easy to do. And we could have just seen her as everybody who has died around her. They chose, it was circumstantial, whatever. And then you have this one moment unequivocally, she took somebody's life without an instant's hesitation. Yep. And they were just a bystander. And it was self-defense in a way, but it's still sort of an odd.
Yeah, it's self-preservation, which is, I guess, a sort of an extension of self-defense. But, and I love that she takes herself to account for this a little bit later on when she's talking about all the people that have died. And she includes this woman and she's like, oh, and I guess I'm just out here killing citizens, by the way. I don't know if you heard the news, but that's what I do now. And something about her calling it so frank, just being like, yeah, that's something I did. I did that. She doesn't try to make a lot of excuses around it. Is one of the things that makes me love Katniss.
Agree. Yeah. Yeah, it's just that's like her as a character, and just part of what appeals to me so much about her is just how unflinching she is about facing her own shit, which I just admire so much.
The shit, yeah. As long as it doesn't have to do with emotional shit,
It's not with the emotional shit. It's like she will call herself on it if she understands, but when she understands, just has trouble getting it. Which I feel like once she gets it, she's just like, oh, okay, yeah, that's definitely what I'm doing, So next chapter, we are hiding out in this place just for a little bit. It's not at all a safe place to hunker down for an extended period.
Right.
And Gale has this injury that they need to deal with. This woman's got tons of makeup, tons of clothing. So what they decide to do when they see all of these refugees passing by outside is to dress up and try and blend in with everybody walking past. And
I love the inclusion.
They managed for a bit here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I love the inclusion that because she sacrificed the hollow to create the explosion, all she's got really is Cressida and her little paper map. So that's what they're left with to navigate through the city. And I just love that inclusion because the hollow was really neat. You know, it was cool little device that they had. Yeah. But I said that so dismissively. It wasn't a little device. It was very efficient and important and a big deal.
I don't think anybody was mad at you. It's all right.
But it was almost like you don't want your characters to become overly reliant on it, you know? And so it's when you talk about the things they've lost people, but they've also lost like this amazing navigation tool, and it could have really fucked them. Like, imagine if Cressida had been one of the people that didn't make it this far. They would be fucked for real, you know? Yeah. So this is just the whole chapter.
Been real bad. So they're out in the crowd, and eventually they're looking around where to go, and finally Katniss is just like, Cressida, can you think of anywhere? And she's like, okay, there may be one place. And they head down a bunch of weird alleys and eventually get to this random store that sells
they have to get to the seedy side of town.
Yeah.
The seedy discount part of town. They're like going to like a dollar store.
Yeah. And she's, I love the fact that she can't help but be like, you wouldn't believe the prices here. Like, girl, why now? Don't stop it.
I thought she was doing that as a cover. You think was she being sincere? I totally thought she was doing that as kind of like, so if people were wondering, like, what are those weirdos doing down that alley? So she's pretending to be like, oh, we're of the Capitol. Why are you making that face at me?
I didn't even think of that.
Oh!
Going back and reading it. Cressida begins to babble in a high-pitched voice about fur undergarments, how essential they are during the cold months. Okay, I believe you. It doesn't say that, but I think you're right. I think I was being uncharitable in my interpretation. So Cressida, forgive me. I'm so sorry.
I mean, it really could be taken either way, right? So I chose to err on the side of grace, as is my way.
It is your way, and it is not my way. So this all makes sense that this is where we arrived. So they go in, and she goes up to the saleswoman who is behind this counter, who looks bonkers. Yeah. And I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with the actual, like, real life person who had their face changed with plastic surgery to look more cat-like.
I remember that.
That is all I could picture with this character.
Yeah, I remember that. I forgot. You know, it's funny. That didn't occur to me when I was reading this. I can't believe I didn't remember that. I forgot all about that.
I would have thought it would.
It should have been the very first thing that popped in my brain. My brain, I guess, didn't want it back. And then thanks to you, here we are.
Hello. Sorry. But yeah, she, there's a real moment of sort of like, is she going to help us? Like, what's her deal even? And she gestures for them to go into this spot, like down some stairs, where Katniss immediately is like, oh, okay, a giant trap. That's what we're doing? Should I fucking just go? Like, am I this much of a dodo to just walk right into this? And then she stops and she says to Tigress, because she like thinks vaguely, I believe I recognize this woman. I feel like she used to be a stylist for the games at one point. Mm-hmm. And she stops as she's like heading down and says, did Snow ban you from the games? And Tigress just like gives like a tail flick, because she's got a tail. Yeah. But then Katniss says, because I'm going to kill him. And she just gets this like creepy smile on her face and clearly is very, very happy to hear this.
I loved it.
And
she's just like,
it's just such a sort of moment for me.
Her mouth spreads into what I take for a smile.
Real difficult to tell.
There's a moment when they first come in the shop where Cressida is like, begging her for help. And she says, Plutarch said you could be trusted. And Katniss is not reassured at this mention.
Yeah.
She's just like, oh, great, one of Plutarch's people. Because Katniss, meanwhile, as they're, stuck in this capital and trying to get to the mansion and all that jazz, and having to deal with the capital, Katniss also does not want to deal with 13 at all. She's got a lot of explaining to do. A lot of fucking people died. She did a lot of shit she wasn't supposed to do. And so she is not eager to really, deal with them either. And that sort of cloud is hanging over most of the entirety of their stay. She's thinking that Tigress is going to be in touch with Plutarch at any moment. And later on, we find out that she doesn't have a way to contact them. And Katniss is so relieved.
Yeah, and I like agree. Plutarch is just so unfeeling about things in a way that's like devastatingly practical, and wholeheartedly side with Katniss on this, just being like, look, I know that he's technically on my side, but honestly, I just do not want anything to do with anything that he has dealings with anymore.
Like, I don't want to deal with him. I definitely don't want to have to explain myself to Coin or be lectured by Coin or deal with Coin, because there's the whole thing about Coin sending Peeta in to basically kill Katniss, which is still kind of on the table and unresolved. So she's not feeling particularly close to either of those two people in these moments, and would just rather not, quite frankly. She just isn't interested.
So they hunker down there and deal with Gale's wound, which Katniss has to stitch up in just the most, like, there's needle, there's thread, but, there's very little else. There's, like, some water. They're able to find a tap that, like, I'm sure the water is fine, but God, it was just...
And she got some medicine. I'm hoping it's antibiotics involved. It doesn't say. It just says I smeared it with medicine and wrap it up. Yeah. I hope it's a numbing cream, antibiotic, something. And she gives him some painkillers, and he is out like a fucking light. And then she has another moment with Peeta when she's trying to clean up his wounds around his wrist, because what he's been doing with his cuffs, and we find out this, I think we find out about it like in the next moment or two. He won't let them take the cuffs off, and he says it's because the pain that he can like make him dig into his wrist, and that pain keeps him grounded and keeps him from sort of like flying off into his madness. Yeah. He says something like, they hold me together, and it was a heartbreaking line.
Right. Yeah, I think actually that he says that back in the first apartment. And she tends to his wrists here because they've gotten bloody, but
Right. When she tries to take the cuffs off when they're in the apartment changing clothes and stuff. I think you're right.
Yeah. And this is when she says something about how, like, you've got to keep it clean because, and he's like, I know what blood poisoning is, Katniss, even if my mother wasn't a healer. And all of a sudden she's like, you said that exact same thing to me in the games. And she says, real or not real? And he says, real. And you risked your life getting the medicine that saved me. Real. I shrug. You were the reason I was alive to do it. Was I? The comment throws him into confusion. Some shiny memory must be fighting for his attention because his body tenses and his newly bandaged wrists strain against the metal cuffs. Then all the energy saps from his body. I'm so tired, Katniss. Go to sleep, I say. He won't until I've rearranged his handcuffs and shackled him to one of the stair supports. It can't be comfortable lying there with his arms above his head, but in a few minutes he drifts off too. So they all just try to sleep as well as they can. There's a mention a little bit later of how all of their nightmares wake each other up, which I was just like, that is the worst thing I've ever heard. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that was really bad. I'm trying to, I don't know exactly when that happens, but it's an awful.
That's a little bit later because they spend like two, I don't know if it's 2 nights, but they sleep twice while they're here. At one point they go upstairs and they've just got, some like cheese and, random stuff that Tigress was able to scrape together. And then the next time they go up there, she's got actual hot food that she was able to get by trading for the clothing, the fur underwear, which is hilarious. I can't imagine. That sounds so uncomfortable. Like,
it really does.
What? No, thank you. Oh my God.
So when they first wake up, she tells she wakes up and Cressida is the only person awake, and she eats, and then she spends some time thinking to herself about the last couple of days, and this is when she does her count of everybody that she's lost.
Yeah.
1, 2, Mitchell,
count.
Mitchell and Boggs, Marcella, League 1 and Jackson, 6, 7, 8, Castor Holmes and Finnick. 8 dead in 24 hours. I know that's 8 people in 24 hours is, I don't even know the word. It's bananas. That's too many people. Yeah. It's too many. It's too many people for 24 hours. And then she says something really, she says, to believe them dead is to accept that I killed them. So she's in this weird denial after she does the countdown where she says none of this feels real. Finnick's going to come down the stairs any second. Boggs is going to have a plan to escape any second. And now she's thinking about how all these people died and it was her fault.
Yeah.
And she's thinking about the lie she told about getting a secret assignment to kill Snow. And she decides, I need to tell the people who are left the fucking truth.
Yeah.
And she does this hilarious. She is bearing her soul and her darkest secrets, and literally everybody is like, yeah, bitch, we know.
Crickets. Staring around. She's waiting for the gasps, the horror, and it's fucking crickets.
Oh my God. So Gail is like, Katniss, girl, we all knew you were lying about Coin.
Mm-hmm.
And she really completely misreads the situation. She's like, well, yeah, you knew, but the soldiers didn't know. And he is like, bitch, do you really what? Do you what?
Yeah. You really thought that they fell for that fucking line?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they knew?
Like, yeah, these are seasoned soldiers that have been working for Coin at 13 for all this time, and you just came in off the street and completely just conned all of them. Like, no, ma'am. And we know you're not that good of an actress. We've been reading this book since the 3rd book,
right?
We know you're not good.
That's one of my favorite parts, is just the fact that she often knows that she isn't a good liar, but she'll just forget that she isn't a good liar sometimes. And I'm just like, babe,
I love it.
Little reminder. We all, it's painful sometimes.
I never told Boggs what I was going to do. And Gail was like, you said it out loud to literally everybody in the command room. Your exact words were, I kill Snow. It is.
Oh my God.
Just remarkable. And this is the thing about Katniss too, which makes me feel like I'm always swinging back and forth and contradicting myself, because she can be really self-aware, really facing the hard truths about herself and those around her. But then you have moments like this shit right here.
Yeah.
and I don't know how you explain it. I don't know, except that people can be very complicated.
Yeah. I think that she's so riddled with guilt sometimes that it really influences her view of herself. Because you know how you get into this headspace where everything takes on the slant of what you already feel is so true about yourself, and you start to be like, wow, I'm a shitty person, so I definitely had shitty reasons for doing all these other things too. Because now you're just sort of making yourself into a martyr almost of just like, oh, I guess I'm just terrible. So part of me feels like that's what's going on here, is just her sliding into this thinking and having to be snapped out of it a little bit by everybody just being like, no, stop it. No, nobody thought that. Again, can we just please refocus here?
Oh my goodness. Oh, girl.
But yeah, she can be a real dink.
So yeah, they get through this earth-shattering confession of hers, and they manage to pull themselves back together. And they're all trying to convince her that these deaths are not on her. People chose; they knew what they were getting into. You don't have to worry about Plutarch; he's going to be thrilled. Cressida says. To which Katniss is like, that's because he doesn't care who dies. But they spend all the time. I mean, she's not lying. They spend all this time. Even Pollux is like nodding emphatically in the background. And finally, she asks Peeta, what does he think? And Peeta is the only one whose words mean any fucking thing in this moment to her.
Yeah.
And he says, I think you still have no idea the effect that you can have. And he says, none of the people that we lost were idiots. They knew what they were doing. They followed you because they believed you really could kill Snow. And like, that's all it takes. That's all it takes from Peeta.
Yeah.
Girl, if you don't just tell this boy you love him and get it the fuck over with, what are we doing at this late stage of the game?
Did you love me? People said I loved you. Why? Oh my God. Just say the words. Yeah. Yup.
Say the line, Bart.
So finally, they go up, and this is when, let's see. We're in easy walking distance through a zone in which the pods are deactivated for the residents' safety. We have disguises that, perhaps with some embellishments from Tigress' furry stock, could get us safely there, but then what? The mansion's sure to be heavily guarded. And they toss around some ideas. Katniss is like, oh, maybe I can, like, put myself out as bait, and then when he appears at my execution, and everybody's like, that's a little bit of a risk to take. So why don't we table that?
Right. Why don't we just kick around some other ideas? We're not saying that's completely off the table, but let's just put a pin in it. It seems like we don't have to jump to that on our very first try. Did you get it?
Rashawn, you'll be pleased to hear that I just killed the fly. That's been
I saw you. I was like, did you get it? Oh, man.
Just got it. Nobody else cares, but Rashawn knows that I've been losing my mind a little bit, so.
I'm very happy for you.
But anyway, sorry, everyone. So this is when Tigress brings them up. Oh, we've been over this already. But I love the moment when Katniss says to her, I doubt Coin knows what to do with me now that I'm still alive. Tigress gives a throaty cackle. No one knows what to do with you, girly. Then she makes me take a pair of the fur leggings, even though I can't pay her for them. It's the kind of gift you have to accept, and anyways, it's cold in that cellar. So they hunker down again for a little while, and we have a moment here that I cannot. This was like straight for me out of the YA playbook, but I don't mean this in like a bad way, just as a, yeah, you kind of got to do this eventually kind of way, where she's like half awake and hears the two dudes that she's into talking together about her. And this is a thing that happens in Twilight also at one point, hearing Edward and Jacob talking about her, you know.
Is that right?
Edward and Jacob, it goes on a little bit longer, and it's much more like, if you weren't here, she'd pick me. Like, there's a much more distinct sort of, can't you just let me have her kind of thing. Whereas here, it's just the two of them sort of commiserating on how they don't fucking know where they stand with her. And each of them kind of being like, I think she likes you better.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting difference in, you know, Twilight, each of them being like, she likes me better. No, she likes me better. And in this one, both the guys are like, I don't know, man. I think she goes for you. Like, she never kissed me like she kissed you. And Peeta being, I think that was just for the cameras. And Gail's like, I don't think so, man.
Yeah. And Peeta's like, he even mentions she loves you.
Yeah. And he even mentions, and this was something that I had thought of a while ago, was that I should have volunteered to go into the arena with her to have her back. And I remembered like sort of thinking how like Gail could have been in the arena with her at one point, like sort of being like, well, Gail, you know, you, and then realizing exactly what Peeta says next, which is she needed you to be home so that she knew her family was being looked after. Like she would not have liked you to do that.
Right.
You know? And I think he's dead right about that.
I feel like we had a conversation about Gail in the games, and I don't remember when we had it though. And I feel like we thought that maybe he was too old or something.
I don't
Does that sound familiar?
I don't think we thought that, because he mentions how many times his name is in the thing for that
first one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But yeah, I love this, and it's funny too that Peeta has to point this out to Gail, because Gail, you should actually know this, I think. You know?
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where he's so kind of like, he can't see the very easy truth of this, because he's so, he's in too close to be able to see it, doesn't have any perspective on it, you know? Because this is like clear as day. No, she needed you to stay behind. She would have never been able to survive the games if she didn't know her family was going to be okay, because you were there. Yeah. And Gail, I think it's Gail says, well, it's not going to matter much longer, because I don't think all three of us are going to be alive at the end of this anyway. So, you know, and if we are still alive, I guess it's going to be Katniss' problem. You know, it's who to choose. That's her problem. And then he yawns. And Peeta says,
then we get this fucking line. You can go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Peeta's like, I wonder how she'll make up her mind, all innocent and shit. And Gail is like, oh, I know that part. Katniss will pick whoever she thinks she can't survive without. And I think I'm reading that wrong. I think Katniss and me are both reading this wrong, because it sounds fucking harsh, right? But maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe we're both reading this wrong.
I don't think you are.
Really? Damn, that's cold. That is cold-blooded. I was trying all of these really different ways. You're right. I was trying so many different ways to interpret this to make it like softer or something, because this is, my God.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad for her hearing it this way, because that's always the worst, when you're hearing people speak candidly about you and they drop a fucking bomb like that on you. And you can't even be like, hey, what the fuck? Because you're not supposed to be listening to the first place.
And Peeta doesn't like contradict him or anything. And that's a big part of what has Katniss sort of just like, wait, oh my God, he must agree with him then. Like, Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
and then none of this is ever talked about again. The next morning, there's no time for this because they got bigger shit to deal with. And in this chapter, anyway, we don't come back to this. I don't know if we will in the later chapters or not, but this is fucking. This is hard. It's hard to hear about yourself.
So, chapter 24. When she first just is like, you know what? Who I can't survive without? I can survive without both of you, so fuck y'all. And then she says, boy, bye, and gives them both a finger and dances away. They're about to leave, and they're looking like at the film footage of what's going on with like the fight out in the streets. And the rebels, for a little while, they have this like system going on where they're rolling cars down the street to set off the pods, which is working. But then I think it's Gale who is like, yeah, well, that's not going to work for long because then they'll figure out that they can trigger them with that. And then as soon as he says that, it's like they heard him say it and they're like, yeah, good idea. And they begin to do that.
And it's unfortunate because Beatty is cutting into the broadcast showing their footage, and they take this fucking loss, this significant loss, where the car they roll in, it looks like it works. They send a scout out, everything looks chill, and then the rest of the rebels, advance, and then boom, everything goes up, and they have to cut the broadcast, like they just nope out of the whole fucking thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, every time that things sort of seem to be going in their direction, then it's just like, psych, just for a bit. But eventually, Tigress, who's been out for the day, it kind of starts to get paranoid about whether or not she's like turning them in or whatever. But eventually she comes back. This is when she's got the food for them. At the first hot meal they've had since all this began. And she's just like, oh, this is amazing. And she's watching the news again. And there's a mention of how many people are being forced to take in refugees despite trying to pretend they're not home. What do you... Oh, we were out shopping, like you do during wartime with the streets full of people. So there are peacekeepers that are literally like breaking into people's homes, being like, here are some house guests. And eventually even like storefronts and stuff are being forced to house people. And they begin to realize like it's a matter of time before they come to Tigress's place and do this. And they really do need to get out of there. Yeah. So they begin to get ready to take off. And let's see.
She gives them all a complete makeover. Like, they showed up to her shop in the clothes they took from the woman's apartment that Katniss killed and just, did the best that they could do. She cleans off all the old, have them, wash off all the old makeup, completely redoes them, dresses them, to where you can't see any of their weapons or their, she fucking does them a real solid.
And it's like in exchange for them giving her a can of salmon that she's like weirdly touched by them giving that to her as like a thank you gift for saving them, which I just thought was so cute that there's just something that about this like very meager gift that really just gets her like, you guys, oh, come here, let me do something. And I love how it ends with Peeta saying, like, never underestimate an amazing stylist or behold the power of an amazing stylist. So, Peeta just doing his thing where he just, like, unfailingly says the right thing.
Yep. I like that I like that was included, too, because we don't get a lot of moments with Peeta that feel like, old Peeta. Old Peeta. But
old Peeta. That's what we call him down these parts.
So when you have a moment where like his true self is able to kind of come through, it is satisfying, but it's also really, really sad too, because then he like kind of disappears again into the sort of madness that they've created for him. There's a whole conversation as well about the night before that Tigress does the new, gives them the makeover, where they're talking about what their plan's going to be. And Katniss is just like, I'm leaving in the morning. And Gail's like, well, I'm going with you, so what are we going to do with everybody else? And what they come down to is, really the question is, what are we going to do about Peeta? That's actually really the question here. And they tell Peeta that he should stay with Tigress, you know, which I think is just like wild, because people are going to recognize who Peeta is once they start bringing people into her shop. So I don't know what the fuck they're thinking with all that, but she's like, yeah, I think it may all work out. He can just sit out the war in Tigress's cellar, which I thought was a real weird thing to say, because you just got done telling us how they're going to be coming with refugees to her place. So I don't get it, but it doesn't end up mattering, because he tells everybody, yeah, I'm going out on my own. I'm going to go do my own thing.
Yeah.
And they are like, well, okay.
It's so weird, too, because they had just seen this like news footage of some random getting beaten to death because people thought it was Peeta, and it wasn't, and he didn't even really look that much like Peeta. So for him to now be like, yeah, I'll just be on my own out here. And he almost counts it as like, well, if they do think they recognize me, all the better, because then they will be distracted.
Yeah, later on it becomes a sort of like, well, I'll be a distraction if you need me. I don't know. It's a little bit wonky here for me.
Agreed.
And I don't know if it really matters, but it just doesn't seem to fit anything that they've been telling us up to this point. It's just weird how she lays this out here. But they end up agreeing to let Peeta go off on his own. Gale gives Peeta his Nightlock tablet, which Peeta had been begging for a couple chapters ago. And they didn't trust him to have it. And then they watch some TV. There's nothing really good happening. And then they head out into the streets, into this throng of people that are making their way, we find out, towards the governor's mansion for shelter, because he's going to take in some people, clearly as I'm assuming a PR stunt. That was my assumption.
Yeah, that's definitely what it feels like. Yeah. And they're just like, oh, okay, so golden opportunity. I don't know if it's like he suspects that she would go for this and he is trying to lure her, you know, like
that's very good.
I can't decide if he thinks she would do something like that. I really can't tell. But just the whole, like, even if it is just a PR stunt, I would buy that too. It's not the sort of thing that feels so obvious that I can be like, oh, come on. We know that you're just trying to, like, I think that he would do the PR thing in the position that he is currently in. It just also works. So what do I know? But yeah, so they say goodbye. She has to tell Peeta to just not be fucking stupid about the Nightlock, which she has been given by Gale. Don't do anything crazy. And then she heads out into the throng of refugees. And this is like pretty harrowing because she's seeing like the weirdness of what people have been bringing with them at times. There's one guy who's just like in a bathrobe carrying an overripe banana, and that's like all he has. And she's just sort of,
God, yes.
And that's something that feels so specific that I almost am like, is this something that your dad saw and told you about, Suzanne? You know what I mean? Like, maybe not just that like specific item, but people carrying shit that made no sense, you know?
Yeah, there's when she's looking out the window at I don't know if it's at Tigress's place or when she was in the apartment and she first sees people going by and they're walking by with like one guy. I think one point in this part of the book, somebody's carrying a safe. Somebody's carrying a house plant.
Yes, a house plant. Like, okay. I mean, if you want to spend your time, but
yeah.
I have such I don't have like a go bag. Nothing as serious as that. But I definitely, in my mind, have a plan for what I would like grab were I in a situation where I needed to like vacate the house right away. Yeah. And it's just,
have you ever had to?
What people? Oh no, never had.
You never had like a fire alarm go off where you had to like skedaddle out of your apartment or anything like that?
Not in a situation that felt serious. That I was like, I may not be able to come back. When I've had fire alarms go off in apartments, I just left knowing I was going right back inside and that it was like a smoke from somebody frying something, you know. What about you?
We had, when we first moved into the old apartment, we didn't know that it was prone to false alarms. And
annoying.
It was, remember, I think it went off one time when we were recording at the old place. I don't know if it ever happened, but it was one of those, what do you call it? Like, it had a fire panel, like when you're at a hotel, you know that deal? So it was like hard. It wasn't like my smoke detector went off. It was like an actual fire alarm went off that you can't turn it off until the fire department comes and keys in the little secret code. So we thought it was like a real deal. So we had to like get the cats, get the carriers. Like I grabbed like one bag with like his wallet, my wallet, glasses. Like trying to think, what do I fucking need? And then we go outside, and everybody's just chilling. It's like 5 people outside. It was a giant building. Me and him are out there with cats, a bag.
Oh my God, that's funny.
I felt like such a doofus. I really did. But we didn't know. And then after that, we stopped going downstairs for until one time there actually was a fucking fire. And then there was a fire after we moved. It made the news.
Ooh.
Yeah. They had a real fire in my building. Yep. Saw it on we were watching the news. And they're like, fire and blah, blah, blah neighborhood. And we were like, oh shit, we used to live in that neighborhood. And then the camera panned. And we were like, oh shit, that's
amazing. Oh my God.
We were there for almost
time, huh?
Yeah, we were there for almost 10 years and never had a real fire. And then we moved, and within like a year and a half they had a fire. Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I just never took those like alarms seriously, and probably to my detriment. I'm sure like eventually some real shit went down and I would have been like, fucking wait, I didn't think it was for real. I need to go back in now. But
you standing outside like a dodo bird, same as I was.
I also think about like getting the pets out, because somewhere recently I read about how many people lose their lives from going back into burning buildings for their pets, which I absolutely would do. There's no question. And so that would be a major priority for me, is finding out where everybody is to get them out, which I know Pippin will be right by my side because he's just like that constantly anyway. The cats, I feel pretty confident they would not hide. A lot of animals hide when they're scared and would be in closets or under the bed. But the two of them are very like in your face when they want something. So I think that they would likely just be like in front of us going, what is happening? But
that's really good. That's really good. Cause that's our big, like we had to like drag a cat from underneath the sofa, but also we had that fucking piercing noise going off and they hated that fucking thing. So it scared the shit out of them.
Yeah. But, that might be a different situation with the alarm.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, so
tangent. Sorry.
She hears like, this kid asking where are we going, and his uncle being like, we're, going to be assigned a new place to live. There's a little girl that seems to notice Katniss and like looks at her in a way that makes Katniss feel as if this little girl may recognize her.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as she starts to say to Gale, like, we may need to split up, there's this gunfire and all of these people go down. And one of them is the
was
person.
happening.
Yeah, this is evidently there are rebels on the rooftops and they're trying to take down peacekeepers and hitting civilians.
Terrible. This is terrible.
Yeah. And she is seeing this little girl who is just like bent over the woman that she was with, presumably her mother, trying to wake her. And as she is like crying over her, there's another wave of bullets. It says slices across the chest of her yellow coat, staining it with red, knocking the girl onto her back. For a moment, I look at her tiny, crumpled form. I lose my ability to form words. Gale prods me with his elbow. Katniss? They're shooting from the roof above us, I tell Gale. Trying to take out the peacekeepers, but they're not exactly crack shots. It must be the rebels. I don't feel a rush of joy, although theoretically my allies have broken through. I am transfixed by that lemon yellow coat.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really like this, you know.
I love
her
this
side, and it's still this horrific thing they've done.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and she just like she can be moved by this, and she doesn't really. I mean, it clearly she's not like happy that this is happening, right? But she did just, you know, herself kill what could have been someone's mother, you know, just the other day. But so even with everything that she's seen, she's still able to be done. She's still moved by seeing something as horrific as this. You know, she's not like completely dead inside yet, which you would, you know, she could very well be by this point, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, honestly, quite frankly, it feels like she's kind of heading in that direction a little bit. I wouldn't be mad at her if she did. I mean, how much can you possibly endure? But, and then, so Gale is just kind of like, you know, trying to shake her out of this sort of stupor that she's in. And Kayla's like, well, we can't start shooting because everybody will know it's us. Because when they did the whole splitting everybody up, they redistributed the weapons that they had. So now Gale and Katniss both just have their bow and arrows, and they can't just start fucking shooting people with that. That's just like a dead giveaway.
Can you imagine? Just fucking like, oh, it's an electronically tipped arrow. Who could that possibly be? Great job, guys.
It's quite the mystery.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and it's funny too, because in this moment, I'm thinking, if we start shooting, but who would you start shooting?
Right.
You know, who exactly are you planning
your
on
own
shooting?
side?
You know, are you shooting the rebels? Are you shooting the peacekeepers? Like, what are we doing? I mean, in like 2 heartbeats, this is all going to go completely left anyway, and everybody's just shooting everybody. But in this particular moment, I was really like, who are you? You don't happen to mention who exactly you be shooting.
It's a good question, though. So they finally, there's like pods going off fucking all over the place.
Oh, it's a fucking shit show. This thing is
there had
crazy.
been like an area that was deactivated for the civilians to break through, but now that there has been rebel activity, they're diverting into another area that isn't safe. And so there's a whole thing with like people just getting taken out in all of these inventive and horrible ways. And I won't go through them all, but it is bad. And eventually where they wind up is hanging off the side of the street
this
that has
whole
begun to
fucking
cave in.
street just opens up underneath them like a fucking inverted drawbridge or some kind of shit. Like a pod gets activated and the street just opens right down the middle, like two flaps. It is, like you said, there's so many weird things, like weird, wildly inventive ways to kill people in these like 2 or 3 paragraphs. What did you say about Suzanne Collins earlier? Who hurt you? Like,
yeah,
it is a
and it's
valid
not like
question.
Okay, people just falling and dying would be bad enough, but then it says from 50 feet below, a vile stench hits my nose, like rotted corpses in the summer heat. Black forms crawl around in the shadows, silencing whoever survives the fall. Why did we need that? We could have just let them die on impact, but then we just get this too.
Nope, we didn't need it. We didn't need it.
Ma'am.
And the fact that
down,
like that, it smells like rotted corpses. I feel like, oh, so y'all have opened the street up before and fed whatever is down there, and then you just close it back on up until you need it again. Oh, but if this is the Capitol and the Capitol hasn't been breached in however many 75 years or whatever it's been, what you been doing?
What's up?
Why is the street opening up?
What's up?
Right? Like what is really good? Like really, what's good?
Oh my God! So at this point, she manages to like pull herself up barely. And she's looking around and she can't see Gale. And then finally she hears him call back. And it says, the flap held up everything to the very base of the buildings. A dozen or so people made it that far, and now hang from whatever provides a handhold. Doorknobs, knockers, mail slots. 3 doors down from me, Gale clings to the decorative iron grating around an apartment door. He could easily get inside if it was open. But despite repeated kicks to the door, no one comes to his aid. So she tells him to cover himself, and she, it says, I drill the lock until the door flies inward. Gale swings into the doorway, landing in a heap on the floor. For a moment, I experience the elation of his rescue. Then, white-gloved hands clamp down on him. And he looks at her and he's saying something and she can't figure it out. And it isn't until later that she realizes he was saying, shoot me. Because that was the deal they had with each other. And now she's just let him get taken alive.
Yep. And he doesn't have his fucking suicide tablet anymore because he gave it to PETA.
Yep.
This is awful news. This is fucking awful news. And the only thing I can hope is she says she sees white gloves and the peacekeepers are hauling him inside now. So I'm assuming that I can trust what she sees. But I'm like hoping like this little part. Denial is really such an important part of the way I move through the world. And there's a part of me that's like, well, maybe they're not really peacekeepers. Like maybe something else is going on. Maybe they're people who dressed up like peacekeepers because they thought it would make them safe. Like I don't know, right? I'm holding out hope.
Yeah,
for based on zero evidence. But
I mean, that's also like it's not just your denial in your real life, but like this is a story, and so. Sometimes authors will fake you out.
It's true.
You know, it's true. That's a reality. And these are peacekeepers, but like, what if if they even, let's say they are real peacekeepers and not just made to look like it even if they are real peacekeepers, nobody says that they successfully bring him in.
That's true, right?
There's all kinds of factors still that could happen.
Maybe they've been secretly dying for a rebellion to happen. Maybe they're sick of this shit. Maybe this was the breaking point they needed. You know, who knows?
Ooh. And I do just want to mention here, I can't hold up my own weight when I try and like dangle on a bar anymore. I'm too heavy. So all of these people who are just hanging on for dear life, that would not be me. That's it.
Bitch, I had to drop.
That's a wrap.
Immediately.
I have to dangle. Yeah.
I got no upper body strength. I'm dropping like a
Nothing.
sack of potatoes.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Have you ever seen the movie This Is the End, I think? I can't remember the name, if that's the right name of it. But anyway, there's a point where somebody is like, come on, grab my hand. And they're like, are you sure? I'm about to put all my weight on your hand. And they're like, yeah, I could do it.
The End of the World movie with like all the celebrities in the house. Yeah, I've seen that. And there's like a big pit opens. Right. I know you're talking about.
That's one of my favorite bits ever. I'm putting all my weight. Are you sure? Yeah. And then the instant they let go of the other thing, boom, down, gone forever. So she is in a fucking state now because she's alone. And she's heading towards the president's home, and she's seeing that there are all these children outside, and it's just like, what is this?
Yeah. This is so much worse than just a PR stunt. This is unimaginable. Except I can imagine somebody doing it. I'm not going to name no fucking names, but
100%.
Yeah, she gets closer to the Capitol, to the mansion, and there's just kids all around. Inside the barricade is a child, all of them.
Yeah.
And she's like, this motherfucker has a human shield.
Yeah.
This piece of shit.
He is, though. Ugh,
and
what
then
piece of shit.
A hovercraft shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got the Capitol seal on it.
Yeah.
Now, I know that 13 has access to aircraft, but they don't keep the Capitol seal on theirs, do they? Maybe they do. I don't know.
Why wouldn't you?
So this hovercraft shows up and drops a bunch of silver parachutes, and all the kids go just immediately are like, oh my God, yes, this is what we need, because silver parachutes mean food, medicine, and gifts. They all know it. They all watch the games. They know what it means, and they go running for it. And then the hovercraft disappears, and then the parachutes all explode. Like, what? What the what? And that's like one of the worst things I've ever read. And she's watching all this, and she's like, I can tell the peacekeepers didn't know that this was coming, because they are yanking the barricades away, trying to get to the kids, and another group of white uniforms come into the open. But then she's like, those aren't peacekeepers. Those are medics. Those are our medics, rebel medics. Mm-hmm. And they swarm in to help these babies that have just been, blown to bits. And then she recognizes her sister.
Yeah.
And that's really all I feel like I want to say about that. I don't want to say the rest of it. But yeah, she recognizes Prim. First she sees her braid. Then Prim takes her coat off to cover a child. And Katniss notices that her shirt's untucked. She tries to call out to Prim. She's also like going completely limp. She doesn't even realize it, because she had climbed up this flagpole to get a better view of everything that's going on. And now she's at the bottom, and she doesn't even know how. She doesn't even have like a recollection of sliding back down to the bottom of it. And she's trying to get to the crowd. She's trying to call out to Prim, and she yells her name. Prim appears to hear her, because it seems like she looks at Katniss for just a second and catches like a sight of her, and starts to say Katniss's name. She thinks, and it just says, and that's when the rest of the parachutes go off, and that's how that chapter ends.
Okay, everybody listening, I started a live read, and as I was reading, I realized like this was not right, and I put the wrong chapter to live read in the chart. So this next chapter, Rashawn can read. It's the chapter after that I'm going to be live reading, chapter 26, which is awkward.
Yeah, how are we going to do that?
Then there's only one more chapter after that, and the epilogue. But I don't care because we'll have so much to talk about at the end of the book that even just one chapter in the epilogue will be plenty. So that's what we're going to do next time.
So the next episode will start with a live read.
No, you'll read chapter 25 and we'll talk about that. And I will live read 26.
Gotcha. Okay. 25 and 26 next week. Got you. Well, damn.
So that works out. Because I was, I know. I was like, this doesn't feel okay. Yeah. Sorry about it, everybody. Those of you who didn't read this chapter because you were waiting for the live read. I only read for like 4 minutes and I was like, nah.
This doesn't feel right.
Yeah. So, that'll have to come next time.
All right. So I'm going to
But it's good probably because this was going to be a really, really long section. So.
Oh, was it?
Probably for the best. Well, I mean, we're an hour and a half in and it's, a whole chapter live reading.
Yeah,
so this would have been over 2 hours for this episode. Right. So it's, I think, probably better this way.
Okay.
But sorry about it, everybody. I remember struggling with breaking this up for the live reads that I wanted to do and feeling like every time that I put something down, I found out that I had done it wrong. And it's not usually that difficult for me. I don't know what was going on, if I was stoned or just tired. But I remember it being like confusing when I did it and getting like the page counts and stuff somewhat reasonable. So I am frankly unsurprised by the fact that I fucked this up.
Unsurprised.
Yeah. What can you do?
Listen,
at least I caught it. I'm glad I didn't just read the whole thing and then go, oh, oops, what?
Right. Good thing you caught it. And,
yeah,
it could be worse. It has been worse. So
it really has, though. That is true.
I am not concerned about it. Well, all right. Then. Well, I guess we're done.
Yeah, I think we are. God. The next section and the live read, I think it'll be way better actually. Now that I step back, I wish that I had seen from the start that that's how it should go. Oh well, what can you do? I want to mention to everybody listening that I have recently changed up the Patreon. And so now there is a new benefit to becoming a $20 and up patron. So if you are interested in listening to Avatar: The Last Airbender, the coverage that I did of that with my husband Owen, we were doing it as a fundraiser for our wedding at the time. I used to have it for sale on my website, and then I posted it to Patreon for sale because they've added a storefront feature. So now Avatar: The Last Airbender, Korra, Legend of Korra, the whole series, our coverage of that, as well as the first season of Loki, are all up for sale. And I had to raise the price because of the fees that I get from Patreon selling on their platform. But in addition to that, guys, if you look at the storefront from the iPhone app, Apple adds its own fees. So these playlists are $25 for 27 episodes, and each of the episodes is at minimum like an hour and a half. So it's a lot of content. The Apple Store adds $11 in
Jesus
fees.
Christ.
Yeah. And I don't get any of that. So everybody, don't buy it on the app. Buy it through your desktop or go through the browser window on your phone. But don't do it from the Patreon app because that is that price higher price there does not benefit me at all. So I do not want you spending that extra money. Apple doesn't need it.
They really don't.
So I just wanted to let you guys know that. And then if you become a $20 and up patron, you get access to all those playlists just included in your membership. So you can buy them outright and just buy them, and you're not, locked into a subscription or anything, because I know a lot of people just don't want to do that. But if you become a patron at the $20 level, you get all of those, plus you get 120 something unsober episodes. And all unsober episodes are at minimum an hour and a half, often closer to 2 hours. And they are very, very fun. So $20 just became a little bit more juicy in terms of its rewards.
A little bit more robust.
Yeah. And also, I have released the first book in the Sookie Stackhouse series, our coverage of that with me and Miles. That is now free as well. So if you don't even have to be a patron at all. You can just go to patreon.com/unspoiled and go to collections. And in the collections area, you'll find the Sookie Stackhouse ones, and just search Dead Until Dark, which is the title of the first book. And all of those will be free for you to listen to get a feel for how it is recording with me and Miles. I think I'm also going to do that with some of the other, patrons only content. Just put one of the first 10 episodes or something up for free for his coverage of Mistborn with me, and maybe coverage of Twilight as well. And that way folks can just get an idea of what it's like, the dynamic with me and Miles. Because he and I haven't recorded very much on public feeds. So
no, you guys haven't been on a public feed together in, it feels like, ages.
Yeah.
Especially once Song of Ice and Fire went behind paywall too, after season 5 or whatever it was. Was it free, or was it patrons only?
I made the show coverage patrons only. Right. But the book stayed.
Yeah, I'm talking about the show with Miles.
Yeah. But we will be doing the House of the Dragon public, me and Rasham, once that drops. So that'll be coming up right as we finish up Dance with Dragons. The timing on that is working out. So
did he ever? He knows.
Nah. No, he wants nothing to do with it. He's so cranky about it. It's very funny because Miles has always been the cranky guy, but he has really tried to rehabilitate that image over the past few years and become more positive, and and he has genuinely become more positive. But this is the one area where he's still as bitter as he has ever been. And it's just they are never getting any forgiveness from me for that.
He is right. He's 100% right. I wish I was as principled.
Well, I'm glad you're not, and that way we can talk about it together. And he has also told me recently, he was just oh, okay, I gotta catch up with you on Hunger Games, and that way
yes,
we can talk about that as well. I'm just yes, please, sir. Because he hasn't read a single page since my recording with him. So,
yeah, you told me that he's got so much going on, and we're done now. We're pretty much done, and he's never even finished the first book. And step it up, Miles. Not get it. Listening.
Who knows,
ma'am.
What?
Don't pretend like you didn't say what you said.
I don't know what you mean. So we just have to say hello to our one new patron. Woo!
Yay!
Neptune Atreides! Woo! Thank you, Neptune, so much for signing up and becoming a patron. Appreciate you so much. And I really hope that you are enjoying the content and everything, and the Discord conversations as well, because there's a lot of locked channels that are patrons only. So thank you again. And if you're interested in either becoming a patron or following as a free patron, or just accessing the free stuff that I have posted, go to patreon.com/unspoiled. That is basically my new headquarters. That's just, I'm going to be doing most of my stuff through Patreon from now on, because they are just making things a lot more functional for me, which is fantastic. Very excited.
Glad something's working.
I know, right? Honestly. All right, everybody. We love you very much. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Are you coming to the tree where dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.